Hey guys, Camp 15 back at it with another Chicago Bears video for you guys. And yeah, man. Um, Look, nothing else can be said about the crap that that obviously we Bear fans have now had to deal with and everything, but my goodness, man. Just been a rough Monday today. Rough Monday. And in my honest opinion, I don't think I can ever get over what happened yesterday and after the Washington game. The Bears could come out next week and they can blow out the Arizona Cardinals. And I would still not be recovered from the loss last week. That's how upset I still am with that stupid loss. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I'm just done. I'm done with these dudes. These dudes, this coaching staff is just so inept. It's so bad. So, yeah. Um Mostly, this video is talking about it's just talking about the players, basically DJ Moore, Jaylon Johnson, Cole Kmet, um, and Kevin Byard, and then I guess I want to add in Mr. Troublemaker himself, Mr. Shit Talker, Tyreek Stevenson, and everything. But mostly the first few players I mentioned, not Tyreek Stevenson, all talking about what their thoughts were on the Hail Mary and the other plays that may have happened and stuff like that. And then obviously the coach this morning, whether it was on the Cap and Jay Hood show or even in the Zoom press conference, that the Bears did not air live. They had it all recorded already. They didn't make that press conference go live because lo and behold, we're getting destroyed by the national media because frankly, that's what's going on right now. We're getting absolutely destroyed by the national media. We can't go live to see what other people to hear our live thoughts. We're just gonna come up with a pre-recorded video and we're gonna send it all up to YouTube. But regardless, the coach still is a tone-deaf individual and he still defends his absolute coaching malpractice from yesterday. Absolutely still defends that. And again, it just goes to show how bad this coach is. Multiple times today, and I don't have a word for word, but multiple times, and not only the Cap and J Hood show, but even in the interview, even in the press conference, they asked, "Would you handle that? Essentially, handle that, situation better? Would you, especially the play before that, end up actually bringing your guys up to try to keep guys in bounds and not have them pick up that gain?" And Matt Eberflus goes out there and says, "No, I wouldn't change a damn thing." At the same time, he lives by this stupid rule where, in some weird way, he feels like 65 yards is much better than 75 yards for a injured quarterback with injured ribs to throw a Hail Mary. He said that. He said he's fine with everything and exactly. But you know what? On the freaking play, Hail Mary, he said players got to execute, and I'm not going to deny players got to execute. But you can find ways to put your players in a better position. And I think the most damning thing about those whole quotes is the fact that two times, not only in the Cap and J Hood show, he said this. He said even in the press conference, because they asked, like, hey, did you ever think about calling a timeout at some point to maybe, getting your guys more collected if they were out of sorts and everything and not prepared? This dude literally says, no, didn't need to call a timeout because we were in position. They were ready. And when he said that on when he said that on the Captain J Hood. If you watch the YouTube stream or the Twitch stream, not listen over the radio feed, you can literally look at Cap and J Hood look at each other. David Kaplan and Jonathan Hood look at each other, and they're just like, the fuck is this dude talking about? This is what I'm talking about. This coach is tone deaf. He doesn't understand anything. Now, I'm going to come out with a video later, and my uncle's actually going to give his thoughts a few hours after the game. And he says in that video, he doesn't handle late game situations well. It's a proven track record. Matt Eberflus has not learned to handle a late game situation. And the fact that he came out today and he doubled down and shit, even tripled down on the fact that he wasn't going to change how he handled the end of the game there by maybe calling a timeout. Or by doing this or by doing that. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. The fact that he said he wouldn't change anything and he wouldn't call a timeout. Yeah, you're not calling a timeout. You go back to that play and you go look at the all 22. You have Bears players on the film literally talking to one another because they don't know what they need to do. And in the meanwhile, you got Tyreek Stevenson already yapping, having a party with the fans. Yeah, surely. Surely, Matt, you were in a great position and you guys were ready. That has to be a bold-faced lie. Because if he actually believes that, I'm sorry. And then listen, if I'm Ryan Poles listening to this, and I can't wait to hear what Ryan Poles has to say on his little Sunday press conference he likes to do with the radio. And I hope ESPN 1000 asks him a question. I understand we don't want to go back to what happened last week, but what were your evaluations of the coaching staff? What was the evaluation of Matt Eberflus, who not only doubled on his thoughts, but tripled on his thoughts on a situation with all due respect? Him saying that, Matt Eberflus saying that he would not change the situation of how the Hail Mary go went. What is your thoughts on that? Was there any problems? Obviously, you don't have to go into specifics what you talked about, but did you ever have a talk with him about the situation and handling maybe what needs to be handled better? He also doubled down on the freaking Doug Kramer play. He just, David Kaplan asked him a clear-cut question. He's like, look, man, do you have legitimately the autonomy to tell Shane, hey, this is not a good idea. Right now, let's not do this play in this situation. Let's call something different. And Eberflus, he really didn't give an answer. He just said, yes, he basically said, yes, I have the overruling power, but, it is what it is. We're going to call the play, and we're going to run the play. So he basically tried to not run from the question, or he tried to run from the question, but at the same time, he didn't want to hold his offensive coordinator accountable. He didn't want to go there and say, no, I should have did a better job. And me and Shane had already talked about it, post-game. Let him know, like, look, man, we can't do that situation again. Because moments like that is going to cost us games. And we can't do that because there's a lot of stake at that point in the game. So, that's the thing. It just goes to show you how incompetent this guy is at the head coach position. He's not a head coach. Right now, he's a good defensive coordinator. And clearly, from what it looks like to me, he's more worried about the damn defensive side of the football than just the overarching thing. The whole ship. And maybe he needs to give play calling over to Eric Washington so then he can run this whole operation. Because clearly, he's worried about what he's going to be calling next on his defensive sheet. Not about what's happening. He not only missed a chance to potentially challenge a spot that DeAndre Swift the refs made him short, but it looked like he got the first down. missed an opportunity to challenge a potential catch while the Commanders are hurrying up. It doesn't matter if you're not getting the feed from your freaking replay team. If you see the Commanders clearly hurrying up, like if they're in a rush, we got to snap this ball because we don't know if this is a catch. That should immediately be a flag. All right, I got to get my challenge flag out. I'm throwing that. Because it's absolutely stupid. You run over to the ref and you throw out that challenge flag. But no, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. I would immediately have thrown the challenge flag. Before I talk about his thoughts on Tyreek Stevenson and things like that, one more thing. Dan Quinn also talked about the Hail Mary play. And he literally says in the press conference, he's glad that they got those few extra yards they did, those extra 13 yards they did, because that put us in the driver's seat. In the meantime, you have your head coach talking about, no, we're okay. We're fine with conceding 13 extra yards to make their Hail Mary easier. We just got to do our jobs and we got to execute and stop the Hail Mary. Well, clearly, your guys didn't do that because they weren't prepared. They weren't. The way they played that felt like as if they didn't practice it, as if they don't practice in practice how to stop the Hail Mary. That's an indictment of the coach. And then his thoughts on the Tyreek Stevenson stuff. I felt like he tried to avoid the answer and dodge the questions and not really, in a public setting, hold Tyreek Stevenson accountable. All he just said is what we talked about it with him. He came out, he said what he had to say. We appreciate him for it, and he took accountability that way. He didn't mention that, no, that can't happen again. We've talked to him, and there will be a punishment that will be given to him. Yes, if you want to keep it in-house, let it be known to the media. We're going to keep that in-house because we want to keep that undisclosed. And when that ever is announced or made known to you guys, we will let you know. But what I can tell you is Tyreek Stevenson, for his actions late last night in that game, he will be having a punishment, a very severe punishment for that. Because we have to make sure we have our players know it only takes one guy to mess up a play. And if one guy is not doing their job, which Tyreek knows, it's going to mess up the whole operation. That's football. That's football. I played it. I coached it. I preached it to my players when I coached them all the time. Said, listen, everybody's got to do their job. If one player is not doing their job, it's going to mess up the entire operation of whatever play, whether it's offensive, defensive, or even special teams. If you're not running your route to the best, you're messing it all up because that could be the ball coming to you. If you're not aware of your coverage defensively or on a defensive line, what gap you're supposed to go to, or for a linebacker, what drop or what's your responsibility in a certain coverage is, you'll mess up the play and you'll mess up the call. And that could be the difference between getting a stop and getting a touchdown thrown over your head like last night. Special teams. If you're a long snapper, if you don't execute the snap, you don't get it to the holder. And if the holder can't get the snap and get the snap right and get it ready for the kicker so they can kick off the ball, or the kicker can't make the kick, that's one guy that can mess up everything. A blocker, you don't get your block for a field goal. Kickoff, you're not hustling down there to go make a tackle. You get my point. You get my point. That's what I'm talking about. One guy can mess up everything. And the way Eberflus talked today about the Tyreek Stevenson situation, it just sounded like they gave him a slap on the wrist. And they're like, all right, you can't do that. That's not right. You can't do that. I don't know if they're going to give him any punishment. The way Eberflus is talking, sounds like they're not going to give him any damn punishment. because it sounds like we let him learn about it, but we're going to go put him back out there. And is the reason why you're putting him back out there is because you're afraid that Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker might not be available for the Cardinals game? And if you feel like that's putting you at a disadvantage, well, guess what? That's on Tyreek Stevenson. He hurt the team because of his selfish ineptitude. That's what you do. That's how you punish players. Look at what the Green Bay Packers, the vaunted rivals, do. Jair Alexander, who's been cutting up the last few years, what does Matt LaFleur and the Packers do? They say, we know you've been long tenured here. You ain't doing this crap no more. You want to act like you're a captain? Hell no, you ain't a captain. You weren't selected. You can take your seat on the bench for a week. Think about it. And we don't care if it hurts the team. We will win in spite of you. You look at what happened with Romeo Doubs this year so far. He had complaining about his role. He didn't show up to practice. You know what the Packers did? They said, all right, you want to be like that? Okay. Your ass is sitting down for a week. You think about that. And then you come back to practice, and guess what? You come over here to work. You don't complain. And now look at Romeo Doubs now. He come back to practice. He working his tail off in practice. And guess what? He's being rewarded in the games. He actually helped my fantasy football team this week. But you get my point. Your vaunted rivals that has your damn number 24/7 every single year. They're setting the example. They're setting the culture. They're making it know we ain't doing this BS because we are the standard. You want to cut around? You know the saying, fuck around and find out? You'll find out, all right. And guess what? Yourself is going to be on the bench. Or we'll just cut you and we'll trade you away like it's nothing. And we'll win in spite of you. Because we develop properly and we have the next man stand up. Because the next man is willing to take your job. But what did the Bears do? They won't hold Stevenson accountable. They'll let him go out there and play against the Arizona Cardinals because we're afraid that Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon won't be ready to play. Oh, that's going to affect our freaking secondary. Well, then guess what? That means you have no confidence in the backups after Tyreek Stevenson. You got no confidence in Terrell Smith to do a solid job. All I saw Tyreek Stevenson doing was causing penalties, talking to the fans, and getting burnt like freaking burnt toast yesterday. Please. Matt Eberflus and his little type of positivity spin. Now, DJ Moore did talk about the Tyreek Stevenson incident. And in his press conference on 670 The Score today, he basically talked about, yeah, the leadership council is going to handle the situation regarding Tyreek Stevenson. And we're going to make sure we handle that in a way where essentially it sounds like they know that can't be tolerated. So I hope the leadership council goes to Eberflus and say, look, man, this may hurt the team, but I don't give a crap. We got to, as leaders, we can't have him doing that stuff, and it cost us a game. If it costs us another game, damn that. We need to make sure we're setting an example for everybody on the team that stuff cannot be tolerated. And I hope DJ Moore and the leadership council basically force Eberflus to tell Stevenson he can't play. I would make him an active, healthy scratch to set the example. And that's what DJ Moore talked about. He talked about the leadership council's we got to go in and evaluate and see. Like, we love our boy Tyreek, but at the end of the day, he made a big mess up. And as a leadership council, we got to see what we can do to correct that. It sounds like to me, the players are acting more like coaches than the actual coaches on the roster. DJ Moore also talked about the Doug Kramer call. Now, he said he was off the field at that point because he was getting checked out for his injury. But he said, yeah, we may have practiced that in practice, but I didn't really expect we would actually run that play in a game. DJ Moore is absolutely saying that he didn't expect that they would actually run that in a game. It's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Let's get to what Cole Kmet had to say, because his quotes was pretty damning too. So Cole Kmet, due to one of Alex Shapiro, he ended up saying that the busted Hail Mary coverage is an example of how the Bears need to learn how to respect the game. Now, I'm guessing that's a shot at Stevenson, but it could be also be a shot at other Bears who are being other Bears defenders being lazy on defense, and also as well as probably taking a shot at the coaches because clearly they weren't respecting the game. Eberflus wasn't respecting the game. He goes on to say there was even instances in practices leading up to games where guys were laying off and need to respect practice more. He then elaborated talking about if you're in the weight room, are you doing all 6 reps or are you doing 5? When you're on the field, are you hitting the jugs after practice? Hold on a quick second, guys. Okay, back. Cole Kmet then elaborated. If you're in the weight room, are you doing all 6 reps or are you doing 5? When are you on the field? Are you hitting the jugs after practice? Is your footwork correct? And a little walkthrough. Little things can't necessarily be addressed by a coach or a teammate. So Cole Kmet essentially is talking about the fact that, listen, we also need to work harder in practice so we can be better prepared for these situations. That's what Cole Kmet is saying. And if there is any of that going on where there's guys that just, practice is done and they going back and they're not getting some extra work in to work on things, then that's not a good look. That is not a good look at all. Now let's get to Kevin Byard. Uh, so Kevin Byard, his he was one of the few guys, if not him and Jaylon Johnson was the 2 guys that had probably the most damning quotes. Now, per Courtney Cronin on her tweet, she said Kevin Byard said he had a discussion with Matt Eberflus about how the Bears defended the play before the Hail Mary when Terry McLaurin got to the sideline for a 13-yard gain and stopped the clock with 2 seconds to set up the final play. How might that play have been defended differently? Now, we said this in the press conference this morning. He goes on our Monday morning. He says he has his feelings about it, talking about Eberflus. I think it's a lot of different ways you can defend those plays. Me personally, I think in that scenario possibly could have had the corners pressed up because they're there because they just ran 2 out cuts and the play was called just to get a couple more yards to throw it down the field. If you had guys pressed up, maybe they convert to verticals and they actually run the Hail Mary. But even if they do, that and our corners run with those guys. I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels doesn't have the arm strength, but you think about the ball landing maybe 10 yards shorter and it may be a little different. I'm not saying that. We don't know. Looking back as it is, it is always woulda, coulda, shoulda. But at the end of the day, things happen the way they happen. Could we have sent pressure? Maybe. He made the call, and that's what it was. You have a veteran safety in Kevin Byard, who we brought over here, who I honestly, in my opinion, I think he's played quite well. I think he's on a 2-year. I think he's either on a 2-year or a 1-year deal. If he's on a 1-year deal, I honestly hope we do resign him because he's been really good, man. But this really goes to show you, man, how tone deaf Matt Eberflus is. Kevin Byard had to go to Matt Eberflus and say, like, hey, coach, I know you have your own thinking and you're the coach, and I'm not going to overrule what you say, but I really do believe I think we could have changed the outcome by maybe going a different direction, maybe handling the second to last play a lot differently. So your own player is saying, I think it would have been better if we just had came up and pressed those receivers because it doesn't matter. Our corners are going to run with them, and we're going to have people over the top anyways. So I don't see the point in doing what you did. And realistically, you could have had your linebackers all the way back there. You could add Tremaine Edmonds back there. And if you wanted to have like freaking Rome or DJ Moore out there, back there as a third safety, you could have did that. But no, we didn't do that. And he literally says it. They ran the two out routes to get a little few extra yards so then they could put themselves in a good position. Again, it's all about freaking inches. Yet Eberflus didn't care about that. He's like, we got to execute the play. Right here, you got Kevin Byard talking about, well, maybe if we just had covered that better, maybe we had our corners pressed, maybe they don't get that out route. Maybe those out routes, because of it, turns to straight verticals, which means guess what? And then Jaylon Daniels has to probably throw the ball up or throw it away out of bounds or something, right? Because there's nothing there, right? And the play's not set up for a Hail Mary. On top of it, maybe you're actually rushing for, maybe you're bringing some pressure and you get home. Because maybe Jaylon Daniels then maybe makes a rookie mistake and overthinks that and like, oh crap, they're actually pressing. Because that's unacceptable, man. That's unacceptable. A veteran safety who's like around his 30s is telling basically a 60-year-old man, 50, no, not, he's actually not 60. Eberflus like in his 50s, like, coach, I think we should have did something better. That was one of the most damning quotes, which it's just stupid, man. Just stupid. Now let's get to Jaylon Johnson. Jaylon Johnson, who's the lockdown corner. Jaylon Johnson. Jaylon Johnson goes on to say on his interview with Matt Spiegel and Lawrence Holmes, and there's a whole segment on YouTube if you want to hear his press conference or his thoughts, and I'm probably going to listen to that at some point. He goes on to say he believes the Bears would have benefited from a timeout before the Hail Mary to play to the Hail Mary play to catch their breath and reinforce everyone's responsibilities. He adds the Bears did know their responsibilities, but his point is it all played out too quickly. But you had Matt Eberflus over here talking about guys were ready, they were in position, so there's no need to call a timeout. But you have your Pro Bowl cornerback that you just paid saying, I don't think we were all ready. And I think in the video, he made a mention telling Lawrence Holmes and Matt Spiegel that I was trying to talk to Tremaine and I couldn't understand what we were saying. We were all out of sorts and we didn't understand what was happening. So when the play snapped, we kind of just did what we needed to do from what the practice we had to do based on what we practice on, right? That's essentially what he said. They were discombobulated. They basically didn't know what they needed to do. And Eberflus, like a dummy, doesn't call a timeout, and he's not looking at the team. He's probably looking at the backfield, seeing what's going on. Instead of calling a timeout and saying, listen, let's call a timeout. Let's call a timeout. Let's see their formation. Let's instantly call a timeout. And then you bring your guys in and be like, listen, this is your responsibilities. You need to be the backman, which Eberflus confirmed that Tyreek Stevenson was supposed to be the guy that's supposed to box out Noah Brown, making sure he doesn't catch the ball in any event the ball is tipped. If Tyreek Stevenson isn't dancing around, turning his back to the play, and he boxes out Noah Brown and he does his assignment, and funny enough, Noah Brown was on the same side where he was running to, he does that, the ball is tipped the same way. If he's boxing Noah Brown out, all Tyreek Stevenson has to do is jump up and bat the ball away. Because there you go, you win the game. But see what I mean by one player messing it all up. And realistically, there was probably, seeing the way Jaylon Johnson sounded, it sounds like there was maybe 4 or 5 more players that were a little bit like, we don't know what's going on. And that's an indictment on the coach. You're supposed to call a timeout in a critical situation. We had 3 timeouts. I would have called a timeout just to reinforce to my players, hey, listen. I'm like, hey, listen. We need, before this play goes, I need to remind you guys, these are your responsibilities. Jaylon, you're the front guy. You cover the front guy, which is probably gonna be McLaurin. Anywhere McLaurin goes, you go. Tyreek, you're the back man. Whoever is the back man in the end zone, find him and box him out. Make sure if the ball is tipped up, you bat that ball away and you box out the backman. Everybody else, if you find a way to get your hands on the ball, do not intercept it. Bat that down. And we get out of here with a W. Get back out there. And maybe you think about bringing some pressure. On a Hail Mary play about, I think, a week ago, Vikings-Lions. Vikings needed a Hail Mary to go win the game. Lions immediately bring pressure, sacked Sam Darnold. Game over. Easy as that. Easy as that. But no, we don't do that. We make things hard on each other. And then Tyreek Stevenson, he basically told the media, finally faced the media. I wish they weren't on Zoom. I feel like that's another reason why they had a Zoom meeting instead of just a straight up press conference where they bring people into Hallis Hall. And he faces the people right there facing the media. That's why I wanted him to talk tomorrow or yesterday in front of the press. But no. We got to hide behind a computer screen like I'm recording this video right now. And we're just going to do a simple Zoom call. But Tyreek Stevenson, he talked about what he needed to talk about. I didn't like the fact that the way he answered, talking about the fact that, he's not going to listen to the outside noise about what other people are saying. He's going to listen to what people are saying in the building. But personally, I think you should listen to some of the outside noise based on your stupidity that you did in that game. Because actually, listening to some outside noise might be helpful. It might be helpful. And to be honest, they're criticizing your head coach. They're criticizing your coach for not having you prepared. But it's like Shannon Sharp said on Nightcap and even First Take. Son, you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. And you got to be focused. This is a lesson learned for Tyreek Stevenson. And it's going to be a very painful lesson learned. Because until he can make up, at some point in the future, Tyreek Stevenson is going to be known as the guy that taunted Commanders fans. And he said he didn't taunt Commanders fans. I don't give a crap if he was celebrating with Bears fans or taunting them. If you're celebrating with Bears fans, you're clearly a little bit too much into the celebration. You ain't won the game yet. I was over here watching the game, and I'm like, why are you giving so much cushion? And my dad's over here telling me, it's okay, it's okay. It's fine. And I'm like, I want to give him that much cushion. And guess what happened next play? So I don't care. Tyreek Stevenson's going to be going down as the next Chicago Bears player. He's going to be known as the next Chicago Bears player that gave the Hail Mary. The main responsible person who gave them Hail Mary because he wanted to celebrate or taunt the fans. Remember Javon Wims, wide receiver for the Bears a few years ago? What is he known for? His 2 biggest known things as a Chicago Bear is this: punching a Saints player in the helmet and then dropping a touchdown of one of the few dimes Trubisky ever threw in this city. And mind you, that was against the Saints in the Superdome. And I remember that because if we get that touchdown there, who knows what happens? The game maybe changes. Javon Wims is known for those two infamous moments. Probably more known for him punching strictly the Saints player in the helmet. And then obviously him dropping a clear-cut touchdown on a deep pass, going right, having it go right through his arms against the same exact team he punched. Tyreek Stevenson is now in that level of category. He's in Javon Wims' category for what he did. I'm going to root for the guy, and I'm going to hope he improves, and I hope he learns his lesson, and I hope that he gets benched, and he's an inactive or a healthy scratch, and he doesn't play next week. But sometimes stuff like that eats you up. People, other opposing teams are going to get in his head now, and they'll be like, let's just piss this guy off because we know he's going to do some dumb shit. This ain't a good look for Tyreek Stevenson. I'm not saying this could be the end of his career, but these are type of moments that end your career as a football player, where you get mocked at, where you get laughed at, and then you're just the guy that's known for being the main guy that is responsible for giving up the Hail Mary. When your team had the lead and they came back, you're the one guy that didn't do his job, and now you're going to be known for it. So guess what? I bet you the next time we play the Commanders, whether it's next year or if we somehow make the playoffs and we see them in the playoffs, I guess you next time, you know who they're going to start targeting? They're going to start targeting Tyreek Stevenson. And they're going to be like, please. That's the guy that that cost his team the fumble. He missed her Hail Mary. And that's the problem. Tyreek Stevenson lets these people get in his head because he's getting burned. He's getting cooked. He can't focus about the outside noise. He can't focus about it. Worry about your damn game and get better and be a good lockup corner alongside Jaylon Johnson. But that stuff is embarrassing and it's a joke. For Tyreek Stevenson's sake, I hope he overcomes this. But that stuff that eats away at you every single day. And if you ask me personally, do I feel bad for Tyreek Stevenson? Fuck no, I don't. I know what it's like to give up a game-winning touchdown. I know what it's like to make a blunder in a game. When I played football in high school, I stupidly, after we got a 3 and out, I stupidly touched the punt because I had a brain fart. I touched the punt, the opposing team recovered it. Our defense had to go back out there and get a stop to win the game. Critical down, I give up the game-winning touchdown. Guy just beats me deep, I give up the game-winning touchdown. We lose the game because of that. To this day, I still remember that like yesterday. And that was one of my fuck-ups. Some teammates obviously consoled me and were there. There were other teammates that said, ha 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 ha, you're the guy that touched the fumble and then gave up the game-winning touchdown. One, that goes to show you some teammates of mine weren't too kind and weren't really supportive of me. I was at my lowest moment because I made a big, huge mistake and it cost us the game. And instead of picking me up, they tore me down. I know what it's like to make a big fuck up. I know what it's like to lose a game like that and actually play in it. Now, yes, did future years, I ended up always did I get beat deep a few times? Yes, I did. But I told myself, never would I ever put myself in that position again. And I didn't. Now, obviously, there was times where it was never in close games or anything, but you get my point. Never have I ever decided to put myself in that situation to where I would find a way to lose a football game like that ever again. Because I didn't want to be known as a player that gives up game-winning touchdowns. That's what I mean about Tyreek Stevenson. You hope this doesn't eat at him where it affects his play. That's the only thing that's coming out of it could be a problem because his confidence, his psyche could be down. But do I feel bad for him? Fuck no. He caused that and he's responsible for his own damn actions. If he didn't do that, the Bears are winners. But because he didn't do that, the Bears are losers. And rightfully so. The head coach is getting ridiculed by national media alike. Colin Cowherd, I don't even like Colin Cowherd. I think some of his takes are absurd. But in his take today on the herd, he said every single thing right, and I could not disagree anymore. You have a head coach that is willing to not do the right things because he can't execute and be a smart coach and make good late game decisions as a head coach. He won't tell his offensive coordinator to nip certain plays in the bud and just be like, Shane, we are not running that. We are trying to win this damn game. And on top of it, we have a head coach that is more willing to blame the players for not executing. And again, yes, the players got to execute. They got to do their jobs, but they can only do the jobs to the best of their abilities if the coach puts them in the best abilities to succeed and execute. But this is the same exact coach who won't look at himself in the mirror, who won't look at himself in these press conferences. Whether it's David Kaplan asking the question, or if it's Courtney Cronin, or any of the Bears media people, Dan Weeder, Mark Grody, anybody else asking these questions, do you think you would handle this situation better? This coach doesn't accept that. He doesn't hold himself accountable and say, yes, looking back at the film tape now, I probably should have did some things that would have made the outcome a lot different. At the end of the day, he's not the guy vetoing his OC, who's said to the media that he would not be doing dumb plays like that again. He promised he would not do stuff like that again. And the head coach just lets that happen. It's like he listens to the headset and he hears the play come in and he's like, that's fine. Let's go. Just execute. And then he'll blame it on Doug Kramer for not executing the play, for not taking the handoff. He'll blame Caleb Williams for not handing the ball correctly to Doug Kramer. On that same exact play, that got Tevin Jenkins hurt. That's what I'm talking about. A coach that doesn't have no accountability for his actions. And you want to have no accountability for your actions? I hope Ryan Poles wakes up. And just like with Velus Jones Jr., he understands it's time to let him go. Enough is enough. You've shown me what you really are. And that's just a solid defensive coordinator, but you have no head coaching, basically testicles. It's like I said earlier in the video. He's more worried about the next defensive play call on his play sheet more than what's going on currently on the game. He's not clear. He's not it's clear he doesn't know what he's doing. It's clear he's way in over his head. You have all your own players basically saying, I don't agree with coach's decision. We're going to run it at the end of the day, but I don't agree with it. And this is the start. This is the start to the revolt. You've already had 4 players go against and say, I don't really like coach's call, but we'll run whatever he calls. That's only the start. Go out and lose to Arizona. Usually, and also I forgot to mention, losses like that, typically, especially based on the coach's responses in the press conference, that can lose the locker room. Because then players can look at what you're saying and be like, but coach, you could have just did this and maybe we would have been better prepared. Yeah, so at the end of the day, the players got to be prepared for all situations. They're professionals. but it's as a coach to put the players in the best position to succeed. Losses like Sunday can help you lose the locker room. Go lose to the Washington Cardinals. Go lose to the Arizona Cardinals next week. If you lose to the Arizona Cardinals next week, guess what happens? Guess. You'll lose the locker room even more. And if it's another embarrassing fashion where the offense is slow, it's not doing what it needs to do, and Shane Waldron's still calling dumb plays, you're going to lose that locker room on the offense side of the ball. And if Eberflus continues to do this dumb stuff and continues to blow late game situations where we look like we're going to win these games, but then we lose it again, you're going to lose the locker room. Because at some point, the players are going to be like, man, this coach can't help have us finish our jobs, man. Get out of here. And he going to come over here and say we ain't executing. Man, fuck this guy. They're going to start to tune you out. We had 3 of those last year. This is the 4th one. If Eberflus has a 5th one, if I'm a locker room player, I'm not listening to whatever this guy says, especially if he's going out there in our freaking end game as we freaking took an L. And he said, look, we just got to execute better, guys, but we're almost there. At some point, you ain't going to listen to this guy. The locker room's going to lose faith with Eberflus. And it seems like there's a few players that, for all intents and purposes, they ain't believing what he's saying. Like I said, you have Kevin Byard basically saying, going up to Eberflus, having a talk with him, saying like, Coach, I think we could have actually prevented that 13-yard pickup by Terry McLaurin. And even Kevin Byard said he has his own way of thinking. I disagree personally and respectfully. That's just not an old returning player. That's a new player coming to this fold. And he already disagreeing with the coach's call. They're losing. Eberflus is losing that locker room. He's losing that locker room. But see, this is my problem. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna beat the Cardinals more than likely. We should beat the Cardinals. You want to really prove how pissed off you were about this loss? You go out and you go blow out Kyler Murray and the Cardinals in their building. Then you go blow out the New England Patriots. But that's what's going to happen. And then guess what? You play the Green Bay Packers. You really want to make that loss up? This is when I'll get over the loss to the Commanders. Go beat the Green Bay Packers at home. Beat the Green Bay Packers at home, and I'll forget the Commanders game. That's what it will take for me to forget the Commanders game. Because they can beat the Patriots, they can beat the Cardinals the next 2 weeks. I will not forget this game. Go beat the freaking Green Bay Packers. Then the following week, go beat the Minnesota Vikings. Then the following week, on my birthday, on Thanksgiving Day, go beat the freaking Detroit Lions in their building. And then you go to San Francisco and you go beat them in their building. And maybe I'll actually forget about the Commanders game. Do that, and I'll forget about the Commanders' freaking blow job. And for crying out loud, that could actually save Eberflus's job. I might be in the minority, but personally, regardless, I don't care. Even if we were to make the playoffs and somehow get past this gauntlet that's going to be coming up soon, I'd still fire the coach. He's not qualified. But personally, I think this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And sadly, this goes, and I'm ending this video off. This ends on Ryan Poles. The fault goes with Ryan Poles. He failed to address the trenches this offseason, especially getting a new quarterback, and he failed to upgrade at the head coach. But we got personal attachments, guys. We got personal attachments. He's my guy. I can't let my guy go. I got to give him every single opportunity he can to succeed. Really, Ryan. Just like with Bayless, you gave him every single opportunity to succeed. And then now, in last week's press conference, you said, we did everything we possibly could. But sadly, it was time to go. And Even though he's talented, we had to part ways because at the end of the day, he wasn't producing. That was basically a summary of what he said about the Bayless Jones Jr. cut. It took him 3 years to realize Bayless Jones Jr. isn't it. Is that going to take about the same time for this man, Ryan Poles, to realize Matt Eberflus isn't it as the head coach of this team? Because Matt Eberflus is the guy that's messing up your quarterback that you drafted. Matt Eberflus is making you, as the GM of the team, look like a bad guy. Because the more you attach yourself to Matt Eberflus, the more that's clearly going to show you as the GM are not qualified for the job. And guess what? That can be a package deal. You wanted to ride alongside Eberflus so damn badly. If I'm Kevin Warren and I'm not worried about a damn stadium that I'm trying to build, and you look at the football side of things, you fire Ryan Poles along with Matt Eberflus and say, sorry, Ryan, you wanted to attach your wagon to this guy so dang bad because he's your man? Well, then you can get going too. I'll get somebody else to come in here that's willing to get a coach that is no nonsense. But even Kevin Warren has some blame in this because he talked about at the start of the season. Well, when I was on the Rams, we didn't get rid of Dick Vermeil when things weren't going his way. Well, here's the difference, Kevin Warren. Matt Eberflus isn't Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil is a Super Bowl winning caliber coach. Matt Eberflus is a fucking defensive coordinator masquerading as a head coach. These next few weeks for the Bears are going to be very interesting. Very interesting. I don't think Tyreek Stevenson will get benched because they won't set the example. Because they're going to be more worried about chasing W's. And you want to know why? That's because that shows you dead straight Eberflus is trying to protect his job and save his job. I think the reason why he was defensive on questions today is because he knows he fucked up. And he feels, for whatever reason, if he holds himself accountable and says, I could have did this better, he acts like Ryan Poles is going to go to his desk and say, you're fired, dude. If anything, that would make me have more respect. Because that tells me you're willing to understand and learn your lessons. Now, can you go out there and can you actually learn your lesson? Shane Waldron clearly didn't because he wants to give goal line runs to a fourth string center. So clearly, he didn't learn his lesson. And so far, Matt Eberflus isn't learning the lesson either. I just want him to hold himself accountable as a coach, and I want him to do this. I watch all these other coaches in the league. They hold themselves accountable, and they say, it's on me. Unless it's a dysfunctional team, most of the coaches in the NFL say it's on me. Dan Campbell, when he goes for it every time on fourth down, it fails. First thing he says, I don't blame the players. That's on me. I made the call. I said, I approved that we're going for it on fourth down, and we didn't get it. That's on me. I should have just punted the ball away, or we should have just took a field goal and got 3 points. That's on me. You see head coach over there willing to take accountability in Detroit, while our head coach is more worried about making sure his players are executing what he calls instead of just saying, my bad. I got to call a better play. I got to be better in that situation. I got to make sure that my guys don't give up a free 13 yards that can lead to a Hail Mary. But no, we don't have a coach that's willing to take accountability. And you just like today, this Monday morning, in the press conferences that these players had, they've already are taking shots at the coach. And they're already disagreeing with the coach's answers. That's a sign that he's losing the locker room. That's a sign. And when he's fully lost his locker room, these players will tune him out. They will tune him out. And they will just be putting on as much good film as they can. In the meanwhile, Ryan Poles is looking up from the suites, probably thinking, that's my guy out there. That's my guy. For all intents and purposes, he's probably sitting right next to Eberflus's wife and his two daughters. Ryan Poles took too long to cut Velus Jones. Sadly, based on how the season goes, he may also be too afraid to let Matt Eberflus loose too late. I said it before and I'll say it again as I'm getting out. He should have been fired after last season, especially if you're starting over with a rookie quarterback. So, that's all I got to say. That's my thoughts on the situation with the Bears. 4 Bears players come out. They expressed their thoughts on what happened yesterday. While Eberflus, in the meantime, doubles down. That's not good. That's not good. As a head coach, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good for Bears fans. That's not good. Because it just shows you have another head coach in the long list of head coaches that we've had that are just stubborn. I know Matt Nagy was stubborn, but it sounds like Matt Eberflus is even more stubborn than Matt Nagy. At least with Matt Nagy, to his defense, he gave up play calling at some point. He gave up play calling to Bill Lazor. That was a sign, at least somewhat, he held himself accountable for not being able to call plays, and he tried to be a head coach. He clearly wasn't, but he tried. At least with him, he held himself accountable and gave up play calling duties. Matt Eberflus won't take no damn accountability. He's the type of coach that thinks he's right 100% of the time, and the players are in the wrong. Well, guess what? If you're going to have that Nick Saban, Bill Belichick type of thinking, you can get the fuck off my team. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Catch you guys next video. Till then, guys, stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day. That video with my Uncle Daryl, so you guys can hear that thoughts, will be coming out soon. And then hopefully we can get my NFL predictions out. I know you're mostly Chicago Bears fans, but I'd also try to do Clippers content. I'll see if I can maybe do a Clippers first 3 games recap and stuff like that. So yeah. And then that's basically it. So yeah. And then NFL predictions, and then Bears versus Cardinals game recap. Don't know if my Uncle Daryl's going to be on that video because it's a late afternoon game, but we'll see. I'll definitely be it, and I'll give you guys my thoughts. Hopefully, I'm talking more about the game than a just straight up rant. Till then, guys, peace.